Hi, good morning, everyone. Brad Roltgen with the Fresno Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency Investors Group. Today we are talking about the price of Bitcoin, where we think it might go with all this ATF or ETF activity, not ATF, sorry, because Freudian slip there maybe. And so we'll talk about that and whatever else topics come up, and we'll go from there. So welcome. Chris, thanks as always joining us. Francis and Frank, Frank, if you want to, can you join us by audio or just chat? However you can join us would be great. All right. So Chris and I were kind of chatting a little bit here. Francis, maybe bring us up to speed on what you're thinking on the price of Bitcoin or anything else in the crypto space lately, news-wise.
Well, I think we're at a holding pattern for right now, and it could go either way, break up or break down. The conservative in me wants to think it's going to go down through the end of the year. Although, especially with the SEC delaying,
Mm-hmm.
their meeting to entertain this idea of an ETF. But I think in the long run, of course, I'm quite a believer that it will go up. And everybody has an opinion as to how far it'll go up. But in the short term, I'm not so sure. But it's okay because I'm a long-term holder. I'm a hodler, so.
Good. That's probably the healthiest position to be in, or yeah, because it drive you crazy, the daily or weekly swings. What is there anything else that you think might push it down, other than the delaying the ETF decisions kind of thing? Was there some, or was that?
Um, I think some overseas news, um, I've heard, might contribute to some movement. I think Japan specifically, and their need for keeping their inflation low and selling bonds.
Okay.
I think that might be a trigger. I don't know. I'm kind of here just to collaborate with you guys and just figure out, beyond even BTC, what might be, a good option for cryptocurrency in the future. You know,
Okay, like some
you
up and coming projects type of thing, or
yeah, because I
okay.
definitely want to, I'm not like a meme fan.
Right, right.
I
Okay.
want something
Good.
more stable and hopefully more American usage. So that because I live here, the government can always decide, well, this is not a good project for us. So they could always limit our access to those. So,
Okay.
um,
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, to me, it's more everything's becoming more international and global. Um, whether it's the social media apps we use, anything we're doing, but that's a good point. So,
I mean, the other side of me also wants to, make a quick buck and go for a
mhm,
meme and, say, hey, give me a 10x, or
yeah,
give me more than that. So,
okay. So would you be interested in something that was like super successful in India, for example? Maybe a coin that was the basis for their uh
I would definitely be interested. It's just for the long term. I'm not so sure that I would hold on to projects that would be more questionable.
okay, okay. Yeah, because I look at it as a way we can kind of diversify out of the US. I mean, we've got stocks and all that we can do for here, but it's hard. I mean, I don't know anything about the Indian stock exchange or, that kind of thing. But, I know, good crypto project that's huge in India just because of the population might be, a good thing going forward.
Yeah, I'm keeping a little notebook of things that people are saying and might pique my interest, and things that I might have to do some analysis on, because I don't consider myself well versed. Although probably for the last 6 months, a year, I've been trying to get more involved. Um, so, I still feel like, even though I feel like a novice still, like I'm trying to understand, the difference between layer one and layer two, and, things of that nature. So,
Yeah, and with as quickly as it's changing, I mean, it's darn hard to be an expert because there's so many places it's changing. It's not just like learning how to use email. It's like learning how to use the internet all in one week, and you're starting at ground zero, starting from scratch type of thing. So just keep up with the things that you're interested in, which might represent a half of 1% of the crypto projects out there, but you'll understand what's kind of the big picture going on, like you mentioned, the layer one and two and that kind of thing. And you're already leaps ahead of the average citizen, so can feel good for that. Uh,
do any of you know about or have the debit card, either through Coinbase or Fold or another company that gives you BTC as a reward?
yeah, I've done the used the Coinbase one for about a year, and I was getting up 4% in XLM, but for some reason they stopped allowing my transactions to go through. Like I couldn't use the card, and it wasn't a, the your limit is whatever amount you have in your US dollar fund. And so I'd have, $500 in there, and I'd try to do like a, $5 or something, and it wouldn't let the transaction go through. And these customer service people couldn't help me. Um, they're like, we can't tell you why your transaction goes through. That's a privacy thing. I'm like, well, it's like the card's not working, and so what's the point? So I kind of gave up on it a few months ago, but until when it was working, it was great, and I was earning all kinds of XLM because it was 4%, and to me that was better than getting 1% in Bitcoin because I could convert it at any time. So if as long as it works, I would use it. I was trying to convert all of my daily, weekly spending over on that because they were, giving me all that rewards.
So when you do have your reward, what what do you convert it to?
That's a personal thing. For a while, I was using the XLM. I was kind of dabbling in some of the DeFi XLM stuff. That wasn't that great. And so then I think the most part, I was just converting it to Bitcoin because I've been trying to up my Bitcoin percentage, um, in my own portfolio. But what you do, that's up to you. And because they give it to you a little bit at a time, like every transaction, you get 26 cents here, 13 cents there, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just sit there and maybe XLM took a run, and okay, time to sell and swap it, or it's down, so maybe hold on to it for another week until it bounces up or whatever. But that's up to you. But whatever they're paying the most rewards in, that's what I would get because it's so easy to convert it. It's not it's a no-brainer on that part. And it's really not a crypto thing because you're using your US dollars, when you're spending, you're not selling Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything to fund that transaction, when you buy a tank of gas or whatever.
Right.
So that one worked good.
Do you
I,
recommend?
I recommend as long as it works. But it's like customer service was frustrating. I just kind of gave up. I was thinking about shredding my card and telling him I lost it and getting a new one and seeing if that one would work because it was literally ludicrous that they couldn't. And it was like whoever I was communicating with didn't understand, you know, because they were, the customer service was outsourced or whatever. And it was, yeah, frustrating. Now I've used the crypto.com one as well. They unfortunately they just changed their rules and they done away with the cheap one without funding I don't know, a good chunk in Crow that you had to put up, to stake before that they would give you the
Right.
rewards. Before they had you could start with 1% was easy. I was doing that, but then when I saw 4%, I'm like, hey, I'm no dummy. 4 is better than 1 kind of thing. But those are the ones I've worked with. But I think it's good to have those because it gives you the option of selling, like, if you wanted to sell some Bitcoin real quick or anything else, and then have it at that exchange or uh, funding source, and you could spend it. I mean, I could be in Hawaii, sell Bitcoin, put it on my crypto.com, card, and have that money to spend right there in 5 minutes. It makes it very convenient.
Hmm.
As opposed to, send it here and now it's back at my bank and I can use my regular debit card or whatever. So yeah, let it report back to us on that, how that goes, whatever, when you try. And
All right.
that probably wouldn't be a bad idea I was asking Chris for kind of some topics earlier to talk about in the future, debit cards, because that does come up. People are like, how can I spend this? And
Right, right,
that's
right.
the easiest way, because it's, not everybody's accepting Bitcoin. Well, not a lot of people are. So let's see. Frank was jumping in about thinking it's going to go down to 7,000 at the bottom. I don't know. It's the dollar crashing. Yeah. Holy cow, we're all over the place with the precious metal too. Um, Load and kinesis. What are we talking about there? Frank, can you expand on that? Or Chris, did I miss part of something else on that? He said, tell me.
I was wondering the same thing. I was thinking
Okay.
he was thinking about gold because he says precious metals will play a big role, but I was thinking it was more. I did the whole load and kinesis Google thing, and it talks about mining, but I was just wondering if it has to do with the precious metals versus. I wasn't sure what that was myself, to be honest with you. But as I said in the chat, I do believe that when you see bank failures like we did, what did Bitcoin do? It went up. So
Right.
when the dollar crashes and obviously the like I was telling you before, Brad, the U.S. credit rating going down and being, Fitch ratings, getting a double A plus versus triple A, it's only going to have an adverse effect on the dollar because of our debt, because of our governance, because of our fiscal deterioration, and you're going to have a positive impact on. I don't want to say crypto, I say Bitcoin, because that right now with the whole uh, BlackRock behind Bitcoin and actually and now saying that you in order to have uh, even risky portfolios, you should have 84% of your portfolio be Bitcoin.
Oh,
That's a lot. You can
that's a,
Google it. You can
yeah.
Google it. So 84%. So that means that the other 15% or 16% should be stocks and bonds and whatever. That's a 180 from where the Larry Fink and BlackRock was in 2017. And why is that? Well, it's the whole reason why Bitcoin came to existence to begin with back in 2009. It was a I say nightmare, financial crisis, and now we're here again. And if you look at the credit that our debt in the last 7 years, since 2017, $12 trillion since 2017. So right, we're currently in June of this year is $32 trillion. In 2017, it was 20 trillion, and that's $12 trillion in 7 years. With that kind of debt that we're never going to be able to pay off, really, and
Right.
my children are going to have problems with it. Government's going to have problems with it, and like the I don't know if you got, like I mentioned earlier, Crypto Casey, Google her. She's
Yeah,
really good at
absolutely.
at the argument for Bitcoin reaching $100,000 before the halving. That's before April of next year. And these are the reasons why, because of the currency devaluation. And so I think, like I said here, that as the dollar and the BRICS, as the BRICS start to look to go to their own local currency and ditching the dollar and actually creating a currency that's gold backed as we were prior to 1971, the dollar is going to get weaker. And I think that, what is it she says? 80% of the dollars are actually overseas, not in the US.
Hmm.
And as they start to ditch the dollar, those dollars are going to come home. And the problem with that is it's going to be like major devaluation. It's going to be
Right.
hyperinflation, and everything's going to be so much more. And people are going to be looking, how do I? You should be doing it now, but you know, kind of like investing your dollars that you have now in the Bitcoin, because it, as agencies like BlackRock and Fidelity and even this ETF, but behind the scenes, look at MicroStrategy. They're buying thousands of it. There's going to be a point which one person will not be able to own zero point 0.5 Bitcoin
Hmm.
in the world because so many people are going to be looking for it. So grab it
Right.
now.
Right.
That's my thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's that part of it, and then you've got just the mere fact that all these people are looking to get on board with these ETFs. It's like, how can it not go up, 2, 3, 4x, because the market is so small. I think we're like 1.2 trillion in that ballpark currently, of all the cryptos, which is just a drop in the bucket of the financial markets in the US, let alone the worldwide, type of thing. So once these guys, I mean, even if 0.5% of the people would put 1% of their portfolios into Bitcoin, what that would mean, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't see any other direction than up long term. Now we may have hiccups or, another exchange crash and people freak out like the FTX thing or whatever, but Bitcoin for sure, long term up. The other 22,000, who knows? I've always thought we wouldn't. Do we need more than 100 different cryptos? Really? Probably not. Um, so we'll see. I saw a blurb, I think in the last week or so, that I guess Elon Musk said, okay, no, Twitter or X is not going to come out with their own crypto, which is fine. Maybe they can use Dogecoin or whatever, but we don't need to have a different, it's like we go to a different store. Oh, we have our own currency. You got to exchange your currency for our currency when you come to our store to spend it. No, we'll use the same one. Maybe that they're Satoshis because we're all in the Lightning Network, and that's what we're spending. And our pizza and our gas and clothes are all priced in Satoshis down the road.
Hey, Brad.
Hmm.
So my take on that is, I know that's ideal what you're saying, but I think the exact opposite is going to happen. If you look at the PYUSD, the stablecoin that PayPal just announced,
Mm.
I think they're sort of trying to do what Facebook did with Libra, but actually doing it more successfully. And because it's doing it more successfully, I think banks, I think other companies are going to do the same thing. And the reason why they're doing it successfully, they're going to actually, they're trailblazing it, as far as the rest of the economy and the rest of all the banks I think banks are going to do it too, because they're actually not being challenged by Congress because they're only doing one for $1 versus Libra is going to do whatever currency the country was in, right? So it's going to be worldwide and it's going to be backed 1-to-1 with whatever country currency.
Mm.
PayPal has said that it'll be 1-to-1 to a dollar. And that's good for the dollar. And that's why they're not going to be challenged. And that's why they're going to get through the SEC. They're not going to be challenged. They're also, they're a very big company, and
Hmm.
they're going to they've already greased the skids, and so to speak. That's why they're not getting any kind of congressional kickback or feedback or negative, because it's going to happen. And I think because that's going to happen, I think other banks, other companies are going to do the same thing, because it really is a money grab when you come to stable coins, right? So give me your dollars, I'll give you the POI USD and EUSD in this case, and while you do whatever and then and what's going to happen is based on Ethereum. And if you have Cash App or you have another app, they're all going to have an Ethereum based, and they're going to be able to communicate and swap easily. So you can, if you have Cash App and I have PayPal, I'll now be able to send you money. Whereas before, see,
Okay.
it's an open network versus a closed network. How PayPal is right now is closed,
Hmm.
and now that's going to open it up to everybody
Okay. Okay.
because it's Ethereum based.
So they're because their coin, yeah, is running on the Ethereum network. Okay. So what's the advantage of doing their own coin versus just doing Tether on the Ethereum network?
Because they're going to be able to control. It's still centrally located. It's still central, right?
Controlled, yeah.
And they're going to be able to take your dollar and invest it, all the dollars that are going into it, and then they're going to be able to get the profits. It's just like
Yeah.
US. It's like Tether, and it's like
Mhm.
they're doing the same thing that Tether does because whenever if you think about how much money Tether has and they're able to invest into Bitcoin or whatever, they're doing that because they get so much money from people buying Tether.
Right, right.
So now people are going to buy PayPal, PYUSD, for the same reason, and so they can get money. They want what Tether has, and PayPal is actually trusted, and it's
Yeah.
also in the SEC is already
They're
it's a
established, yeah.
they're established, and they're going to probably at some point in the future, I think, make more money than Tether, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, and it's interesting now how these guys that maybe were, dipping their toes in the water, with crypto related project. Now it's just like everybody's just like in.
Hmm.
And so that's been the interesting part to me where
It's part of the mass adoption,
hmm
and it's
hmm
starting with the big names like BlackRock and PayPal, and people go, oh, okay, well, it's not so bad. Okay, all that other stuff is bad, and I don't know about Dogecoin and Shiba, but PYUSD, USD, and those are not bad.
right. No, big companies are behind him. It's not like two guys from that company split off and are doing their thing. It's with the company name behind them and that kind
Exactly.
of thing. So, hey, morning,
Hey,
Michael,
Michael.
welcome.
Good morning.
We're kind of talking a little bit about the new PayPal stable coin and how that might be used going forward. Oh, now we got Susan joining. Okay. What do we have, like a 30-minute lag or something here? I don't know what happened. Anyway, good to have you guys on. Morning, Susan.
Hi. Oh,
I
there you
haven't
can
heard
hear me.
about-
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I haven't heard about the PayPal thing yet.
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, let's back up and Michael and Susan, what are your thoughts on the Bitcoin as far as, going up, going down with the recent news, or why would we see either go either direction?
I have something I'm going to post here for you guys that I just saw yesterday. That there was a story about. Let me see if I can find it real quick. That it was going to be 70,000 by the time we got to January or something like that. It was on MSNBC, or MSN, which I don't put that much credence in. But let me just send you the text, the link, and just take a look at that. And I just found that kind of interesting. They were talking about 70,000. We're going to have like 135% run from where we're at. So I don't know. Bitcoin's just been extremely stable the last, I don't know, what, 2 months now. That's it's usually a good precursor to upward movements. So it seems like we've reestablished higher lows, and we just can't break through that 31, 32K yet. That's our problem. We got to break through there. There's a lot of, if you guys remember, it dropped from like in the 40s or so down into the 30s, down into the low. Dropped about 10,000 sometime in 2022. If you look on the chart, you can see it, going down, and all of a sudden, whoop. And there's a lot of congestion right in that area. So we've got to break through that. Once we get through 31 or 32, we'll probably get up to around 38 fairly quickly. And then I don't know where we really go from there, because there's these ETFs that you had posted, Brad. You've got these that are coming out, and BlackRock's involved, and they're like they're like the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room. And so if Blackstone wants it, it'll happen.
Exactly. That's exactly what we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
becoming
cool.
normalized.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead, Susan. Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
becoming normalized when the big companies start adopting it
And-
and actually accommodating it.
Right,
Like
talking
Schwab
about it,
is
supporting
Schwab
it.
is in there too. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I just woke up. So sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're glad to have you on here. I'm just to me, with all these all the interest in the ETFs and the better than 50-50 odds, because these are the big players that at least some of them are going to get approved. I saw something this morning that somebody was speculating that they're kind of waiting to align all of them to maybe potentially approve all of them at the same time, which Katie barred the door. It's like, if that happens, I mean, Bitcoin has to go up. There's no other way.
Well, I think next April, somewhere around the 28th, April 2024 is the next halving.
Hmm.
And we talked about that, whether that has as much power as it used to, because it's going from 6.5 to 3 or 6 something to 3
Something, yeah.
3 1/8 or something like that. So, but yeah, Fidelity was also in there. They also have a ETF, and there was a number of other ones. And I've thought for some time that, and I don't know why it takes so long. Maybe they're just, I don't know why, but I think there's still a lot of accumulation for on the political side. I think there's a lot of people who when you see people like Jamie Dimon change their mind, that means they now own Bitcoin. Okay, that's what that means. I mean, anybody with a, you just follow the money. That's
Right.
such a cliche, but it's so true. And then I just think that there's tons of people out there who are completely connecting themselves to Bitcoin, making accumulation as much as they can. And then, then they'll be all for it and everybody will love it and then it'll skyrocket.
Yeah, let's see. Frank just jumped in. I believe a Big Gorilla BlackRock will get everyone in the game and then short the coin and then get back in at the bottom. I think that's kind of what we saw back in 17 when we had that run up. I just remember all of a sudden on CNBC seeing all the Bitcoin ticker, and then there was the Big Bang Theory show all about Bitcoin, and it was like all this media going on, and I think that might have been what was going on back then, but I think we're in a different situation now, and we're closer to the mass adoption. Not to say that they couldn't do that again, but I think there's too many people involved now compared to then.
Well, we
Interesting.
just had people like you and me in it, at the time. And so there was no corporate money in Bitcoin really in 17, right? I mean, there might have been some, but there really wasn't that much. And there was so much FOMO going on. Everybody and their mother wanted to get into it. And, and then some people just went crazy. I mean, there were stories all the time about people putting a second on their house and things like that to either buy Bitcoin or to buy the miners and things like that. It was funny. I mean, there was times when, people were making tons of money every day in Bitcoin. And so now you've got huge amounts of corporate money in it, billions and billions of dollars, maybe even $1 trillion. Well, not quite $1 trillion, but you've got hundreds of millions of dollars in there. MicroStrategy and all the other ones, like Chris said, BlackRock does own, believe me, they own more than one miner. Okay.
Right.
I just read yesterday that one of the miners is now averaging $8,300 cost per Bitcoin. So they're buying Bitcoin at 8,300, and right now it's worth just over 29. Okay.
They're doing okay.
They're doing okay. You know, so that's you know, and so people like BlackRock own that stuff.
What do
Yeah,
you think about if BlackRock was to get the ETF and knowing that they have trillions to spend, couldn't they technically buy out the rest of Bitcoin?
Absolutely. I mean, they could try. They wouldn't be able to buy all of it because there's a huge chunk of people that aren't going to be selling. I know we talked about, you
Well,
know,
the balance, whatever's left over.
Well, whatever's on exchanges, right? So each day, I think right now it's 6.5 per day or something like that. So as each miner mines, that's what's going to drive the value up. Is if they buy, and if you look at the scale, and I don't have it here to show you, but over the last, well, at least 2 or 3 years, if not more, the Bitcoin on exchange is going down, while the Bitcoin being mined goes down as well. And then when that happens, the value goes up, the value of Bitcoin. So you're right. If they buy everything on the exchanges, the value is going to go up because people are going to want to buy more, and there's not going to be any on exchanges.
Mhm.
yeah,
And when the halving happens, that means per day when they're mining, it's going to be half of what it's right now. So as they mine it, they're going to want to buy it, and that's what the whole thing with BlackRock and Fidelity and ARK Invest, they're in MicroStrategy, they're buying it as they can. And but the value, the number of Bitcoin on exchange is going down. It's not zero yet, but that's the direction it's going. Is that it's going to be a point with mass adoption. That's why there's going to be supply and demand issues, and that's what's going to drive the value of Bitcoin up. Is because they're not going to be able to. It's like first come first serve. Whoever grabs it off the miners, they're going to sell them or whatever, and then it's that's what I think is it. You're right. The value is going to go up whenever the Bitcoin on exchange that's available, that's not being held by you, me, and everybody else, and even those companies. The ability to purchase it isn't going to be readily available like it is right now.
yeah. And that, Francis, that was my point, that these guys that have all this money, when they get into it, I mean, I'm looking at the Bitcoin market cap right now is 573 billion. And so, yeah, BlackRock could come in and buy all of that, but they couldn't get all of that because there's at least half of the Bitcoin people are not, it's not for sale, type of thing. So maybe 10% is for sale or whatever number. And then, like Chris was talking about, when that supply starts going on, demand just going to, go vertical.
And remember, there's 21 million, but of those 21 million, it is estimated, and I've watched various, YouTubers, or whatever. I think it's 5 to 6 million are like gone, or it's like not available because nobody has either lost their keys or even Satoshi. What was it, 1 million? He has that's in his wallet that has been touched since 2009. My point is, there's Bitcoin that
Lost.
people lost or no access to. So that
Inaccessible. Yeah.
reduces the number, which is going to cause the price to go up.
Yeah. And so used to a society and systems where, we can get more, like when we had a toilet paper shortage, with COVID. Okay, we're still going to get more. They're still going to make more, that kind of thing. Okay, yeah, houses are in shortage, but they're still going to make more. Bitcoin, you can't make any more. I mean,
But that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons why I think Bitcoin is going to go up, because of the currency devaluation. The more money you have, and the more money they print, that means the less value the existing currency is, and that's
mhm.
that's why it's going to be like I said earlier, hyperinflation. Whenever all those dollars come back, whenever they start using their own local dollars, or they start creating like BRICS, start creating a currency that has gold back versus dollar back. And so we're going to have a lot of money in the system that we're going to have here, where things are going to be very expensive. And the dollar, obviously, you look at a lot of you guys have been born since before 70s, 60s. Think about how much you could have bought back then with a gallon of milk versus what you can now. It's so much more expensive. It's just going to get worse. And
Yeah,
Bitcoin is a hedge against that. And I think that's why people are going to start investing in it, hopefully.
absolutely. Now, so do you think let's just say like the euro and the yen and the yuan are in the same position, Chris?
Not as much as the dollar, because the dollar is the go-to for the world, right? I think
Mhm.
and because what was it, 1970s when we made that this that agreement with Saudi Arabia, where if you want oil, you have to do it through the dollar. Well, look at the Saudi Arabia now. They're having direct discussions with China about using it's I think it's going to hit the US harder than it will Europe and Japan. But look at who's the investors in the United States. It's those companies, and because it's the trust. And like I mentioned earlier, when you have a Fitch rating downgrade on the credit, you start to have doubt. What happens when you have doubt? People start looking elsewhere for more safety. Well, right now, I know that the U.S. government's downplaying it, but it's a concern. I think it's a concern for the world, and I think it's more concern for the dollar in the U.S. than it is for Europe and the other countries.
Right, right, because we've been the king of the hill for so long.
Yep.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
personal opinion.
I think that's most of our opinion. Does anybody have a good case for the price of Bitcoin going down? It's paper down
No,
the sheet.
you have you have the classic supply demand situation happening with Bitcoin. Like Chris said, there's probably 4 million that aren't ever going to be seen again or aren't ever going to be available for the end of time. So maybe you have 17 million total, and part of those aren't even mined yet. You have till 2143 or something like that until the last Bitcoin is mined. And if anybody will even, well, I guess they would bother to do it because it'll be worth so much money by then. But the key is you have more and more people talking about it. You have more and more money. Like I said, hundreds of billions of dollars that are pouring into this, and you have lesser and lesser of a commodity. And so the price is going to have to go up. I mean, I don't, will there be some whales now who could, because there's so much that's just being held, like people like me have just been holding for a long time. The average Bitcoin hasn't been touched in a year. Okay. I mean, there's millions and millions of them that haven't been touched in a year. So that means there's a very small amount that's on the exchange for people to mess with. And like Susan said, can BlackRock come in and buy that? Yeah, but first of all, they're going to pay a hell of a premium for that if they come in and do that, because there's this, they want to buy this much and there's this much to buy, and they've got this much cash. So they're going to push it up by themselves on themselves, as far as I know. And so will it go down? Could some whales come in and do some shenanigans? That happens all the time. That's the nature of Bitcoin. But the overall trajectory is up. Just look at the chart. I mean, the chart goes literally from here, up to here, from 10,000 for a pizza to, I don't know, less than a Satoshi. Well, let me see. What would it less than? Is it a million? That's Satoshis in a million Satoshis in a Bitcoin, right? Yeah. So, a pizza is, I don't know how many Satoshis, going from Bitcoins that. So I don't really see any reason why it's going to go down, why we're going to see some lower numbers. You just have too many people wanting to make money on it. And here's the thing, is that a lot of people forget, is that at 29,000, there's only so much for it to go down for you to make money. But there's so much more money to be made going up, right? People go, oh, I want to short it and everything. And people couldn't wait till 2017 when those futures came out, and then they wrecked it, right? And they went from 19 to 3. And yeah, they made a lot of money. But imagine going from 30 to 130. Now you're going to make some money. Now you're making a lot more money on that. So no,
Yeah.
nobody has a real, not
So
even, not even
does,
Peter Schiff has the gold bug. Not
Yeah.
even Peter Schiff has a true story as to why Bitcoin is going to go down and not replace gold at some point in time. Like Chris said, if you want more gold, you go up and you buy a gold mine, or you open a gold mine, and sure, it'll cost you millions. But I can put a couple tons on the market every freaking year whenever I want. And you can't do that with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Go ahead, Susan.
So what I'm curious about is how Bitcoin will perform once it hits that high peak, that peak where people did buy and then it dropped. And it seems to me like that's got to be a resistance, an area of resistance. And that people who bought then and are now underwater would sell, that there would be a rush for them to just recoup their losses and get out because they can't stand the philosophical pain.
I'm one of those people,
Okay.
but I'm gonna keep it. Obviously,
Uh-huh.
'cause I bought it high. Obviously, I'd have hopes that it would have gone higher, so.
Well, that's what the 32,000 point is that a lot of people got stopped out at that or bought at that point, thinking that a $10,000 drop, which was 25%, literally in a day. Did anybody remember that? It's like a day or two, it dropped 25%. So there's a lot of people with a lot of purchases at that rate and that 32,000. And so there's people like Francis and myself who aren't going to sell at those rates, right? Even though you may be in higher, Francis, I don't know, but there's a lot of people that are in at those 31, 32K area. Primarily 31.5 is really your main thing, but a lot of people will sell, and that's why it's gone down 3 or 4 times when it's gone up there, is because people just couldn't take it anymore. They don't understand the nature of Bitcoin, and they don't have the ability to look back at the charts and go, wow, this thing has really high magnitude of up and down. But again, left to right, viciously higher to the right. So anyhow, I'm glad, Francis, you're going to stick it out. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Me too.
Hang in there, hang in there. Look, Frank asked about using our crypto, and we talked about that, touch on that a little bit. So he said, how do you use Bitcoin to buy milk, bread, food, other everyday goods? So Frank, that's where, like I mentioned, either the Coinbase or the crypto.com card. If you have one of those, you literally just, sell the Bitcoin and you get $500 or whatever, and you have that in your US dollar balance on Coinbase, and those funds are available to use on your Coinbase card. Or if you're doing it with crypto.com, you actually have to move the funds from your US dollar balance over to your fiat, or I'm sorry, over to the debit card, and then they're available to spend. So that makes it really easy. So if you're,
I'm gonna check out Fold, FOLD.
let's see. Oh, is that another debit card provider?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so in El Salvador, they're doing the Lightning Network with Bitcoin to make it easier.
So will Bitcoin ever be something that you just trade Bitcoin like a dollar? Like I take out $1 and hand it to somebody.
Potentially, like I did that 4 years ago when somebody at the in-person meeting set up had to set up Lightning Network wallets, and they sent over 500 Satoshis or whatever it was. It was like 75 cents, or maybe it was 5,000, whatever the numbers were. Yeah, and with the Lightning Network, that's something that can be done, quickly and easily and at a low cost. But obviously the person that needs to support it, buying or selling. But as we're becoming used to using all these other digital tools, whether it's Cash App or Venmo or PayPal, at some point there's going to be super duper flexibility between the two. So that little box at Target that we swipe our cards through, it's going to come up with a QR code, and we're going to scan to send a Lightning Network payment or something similar. And that little box will take care of all these things, no matter where the funds are coming from.
And don't think that Visa and MasterCard don't feel threatened about this, because what we're targeting is the middleman, and it's the fees that we all pay and we want to avoid. And they see the writing on the wall. That's why each one of them are looking at doing something exactly what PayPal is doing, Visa and MasterCard, so that way they can have a piece of the pie and still be in the game, but adapting. Because if you don't adapt, you end up like Blockbuster.
Right. And they may not make the 2% on these transactions like they've been used to. Maybe they're going to make 0.2%, via crypto, in blockchain transactions, but they'd rather get twice the number of transactions at 0.2% than 0 at 2%. Kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see how all that works. But just like, you know, that those terminals used to only accept Visa and MasterCard, now they take debit or, you know, debit cards, Discover, American Express, even, you know, diners and some of these other goofy cards kind of thing. It wouldn't be hard for them to accept cryptos as well. And those are some of the projects I remember. Electroneum was one back in 17 that I started following in actually mining some Electroneum tokens back in the day, because that was their claim to fame. We're going to come out with these terminals to do this, and I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. And then it's like, oh, there's only another 100 companies doing the same thing, because obviously in crypto and payments kind of go together, and everybody's trying to you know, crack the nut as far as the best way to do that and to get adopted. That's the thing. And so like these Visa and MasterCard folks probably have the best chance of actually getting merchants to adopt their solution. Because I mean, how many merchants are out there? Millions and millions. And if, you know, if Chris, Michael, and I had this great idea and we had, you know, $10 million to do this project, you know, we're gonna have to talk to a lot of merchants to get them to adopt and get on our system. But Visa, you know, or MasterCard or some of these payment networks obviously do that a lot quicker.
But look at the governments too, with the CBDCs. And if you look at the Fed Now system, it's about peer to peer. They want to be able to send it straight to you, not to the banks. And that's caused a little bit of problem with them. But see, there's other things that go with that, like freezing your account. Even if you look at PayPal, the PYUSD, if you look in their code, they can still freeze an account, or they can actually eliminate an account based on and they have to do that because that's one of the reasons why the SEC is blessing it, because you have to be able to stop people from using it wrong and be the whole money laundering aspect of it. They're always going to have that. But you have the governments, just like the companies, Visa and MasterCard, they are seeing the writing on the wall, and they're trying to use these CBDCs and or Fed Now, that's going to predecessor to CBDC. That's the direction they're going, and that's their version of crypto.
Yeah, in a lot of people's minds, it's just a digital thing, and they don't understand the purity of that crypto offers as far as control for each of us to be able to be in 100% control of our funds. Go ahead,
And
Michael.
that's the very thing that they don't want. That's why the government's coming out with these CBDCs and stuff. It's because they can 100% control it. You can't control Bitcoin. Like Susan was asking, can BlackRock come out and do that? Well, they can come out and buy a certain amount of it, but they can't get ours. We can keep ours forever. We could put it in a family trust, and 100 years from now or 200 years from now, somebody could open that up and spend that money, and they'll never get their hands on it. But if the CBDC, if you have it and you think you have it someplace where they can't get it, you're wrong. They're going to be able to come in and they're going to be able to take that and do whatever they want with that, whenever they decide, for whatever reason they want. And no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a realist.
But and me too. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the thought does exist. Okay, for example, in the news this year with Ledger, they admitted to being a backdoor.
Right.
Right.
Okay, think about this. 1934, U.S. government says, I think it was 34, says if you have gold, you need to turn it in, or else you're a felon. And a lot of people didn't do that, but if they do that with Bitcoin, but they execute a search warrant, or they execute a demand letter to Trezor and Ledger that they need to execute their backdoors to take people's Bitcoin. Whoa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So what do? Where do you put your money?
Good question.
Well, that's why you have to have it on private wallets.
Well, and those were supposed to be private wallets.
They are. That's what my point was. If they admitted
well,
there's a backdoor.
A cold wallet or something.
Those are cold wallets. And those were those are the OGs in cold wallets.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's the tough part. Yeah.
That's why that disclosure by Ledger this year was like an eye opener. Like, wait, what?
Right.
Now I thought the Trezor was open sourced and they didn't have any backdoors like that.
It is. I was just saying that what if it's one of those scenarios. Yeah. It was a what if scenario. You're right. Trezor is open source. You can look at the code. Ledger is not. I think they're making an effort now to actually make it open source because of that very reason. That disclosure is like, wait, because they wanted to, remember they wanted to have a 3 where you can actually opt in to have it backed up.
For the
But there's-
multi-sig, yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
SIG, exactly. But then they said, well, we've always had that ability to backdoor, and that caused a bigger fire than the whole multi-sig. And so my example was, what if they have the ability to just take it from us versus just having you give it in? Like you can't do it with gold
Right.
unless they did a search warrant on every house.
Yeah, yeah. I think the answer is don't keep all of our eggs in one basket or all of our coins in one wallet. You know, maybe you do, you know, some in a trust wallet and some in Exodus, some in an atomic wallet. Maybe it's a bad example because they just had some problems, but you know, split it up type of thing. As far as that goes, yeah.
What other wallets are there?
There's a number of wallets.
I mean, cold storage.
Well, the Trezor and the Ledger have been the OGs, and they've been around forever. Yeah, I think was it our last meeting or the one before that we kind of talked about that. But
I'm just aware of those two.
yeah, I would just stick with the Trezor at this point. Some of the other ones though, they're like they offer a bigger screen and you can do more things like that, but just keep it simple. And I'd rather buy 2 or 3 cheap ones than a fancy one. Oh, I think Chris, you're muted.
Sorry, a ton of family members.
Oh no, no worries. Okay, just didn't want to miss out. But Francis, have you tried a cold storage wallet yet?
Yeah, I have the Ledger.
Okay. And is it working okay for you or hitting?
Oh, that's a story.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the first one I got was a dog. I complained and they gave me a free new one. So that's like a thing. Like, what if it malfunctions? This good one that I have now, it's like, I know you have your
Your seed word, yeah,
seed
your seed.
phrases,
Mm-hmm.
but
Good.
it's like, wow, that's like, being a new person and something fails, you're like, is this what I'm looking forward to?
Absolutely right. Right. No, so you keep those. So if one does go sour, south on you, you could get another one and restore it on that other device, type of thing. But yeah, and that's another reason for me, not wanting to keep everything in one spot, in one wallet. I mean, especially when we're talking, it's one thing we're talking $500,000, but when you're talking, 10, 20, 50 grand or more, yeah, spend another $100 and put the other 50,000 on a second device, and maybe keep that device in a fire safe at your office and you keep the other one on a fire safe at your house or whatever, just to, diversify geographically as well.
This one is Cold Card. The reason I like that particular one is it has a removable micro SD card, and so your information can be completely off of you when you transfer it. You transfer it onto the card, right? And then you take the card out of your computer and you put the SD card into the card, the thing itself, and it transferred that onto the cold card device, never being hot at any time. And when you want to take your Bitcoin out, you put your SD card in there, transfer to the SD card, transfer that to your computer, and then you can do whatever you want with it at that point. And then that way, it is completely unattached to the internet in any way, unless they figure out a way to read SD cards, micro SD card, like they do that RFD or RFI thing to your wallet or something. Maybe they can do that. But, like we always see on TV, there's always a way for somebody to do something. And we're talking about backdoors. When have you ever seen any show for anything ever that somebody didn't have? Well, I just happen to have a backdoor on it, super secret thing. It's like, well, I put this little teeny window in there for myself, in case I want to look around or whatever like that. I mean, believe me, and everything that's out there, there's nothing that's completely, I don't think, there's nothing that's completely unhackable by somebody.
Okay. Yeah, Francis, I put a link to the Google Doc from our June meeting when we talked about the wallets. And so there's links in there to a bunch of the things, I think, including the cold card that
Okay.
Michael's talking about. So, and then there's a recording of that meeting too, if you want to go back. You know, we had our discussion on that as well, kind of
Thank
thing.
you.
So good deal. Okay. Any other thoughts on coins and up and down and that kind of stuff? Obviously, we'll think the altcoins will kind of follow Bitcoin, delayed reaction a little bit. But I think
So is
as
PayPal stable coin an altcoin?
anything that's not Bitcoin is an altcoin.
Okay.
Is the theory? Yeah.
So I heard when I got on Bitcoin PayPal was in discussion. So did I miss a great point from that?
So my point was about
yeah.
mass adoption and
Oh, I
PayPal
see.
having
Okay.
as many customers that it has and worldwide. It's not only just so right now PayPal, and you probably have it, and I have it, is a closed network. So if you have PayPal, you can send some PayPal to another person with PayPal, but you can't send it to someone with Cash App. With the PYUSD, as long as you have, and this is where they're kind of the trailblazer with this. PayPal is the first, and they're doing it on Ethereum. There will be other like Cash App will have others on Ethereum, where you can actually, if you have a Cash App and I have PayPal, I can send you money. And it's because of Ethereum, the bridge, they'll be able to it expands their millions of customers to
I
even
see.
billions of customers.
So that's not the possible with Bitcoin, only with Ethereum.
Well, with the Lightning, see, I think the problem is liquidity, right? The problem is the number
Right.
when you have MicroStrategy buying up, millions of Bitcoin, you don't have the number of, I guess, the stable coins because it's one for one. That's one of the reasons why I said that. And when I first started talking about it, I said PayPal will succeed where Facebook failed. And the Libra coin that they tried to do it was a great idea, and I think PayPal learned from it. Facebook failed because it was one for one for the currency where you lived, and that would be Europe, or it would be Japan, or it would be Russia, or whatever. So their Libra coin would be matched by the currency where they live. Well, of course, the U.S. dollar does not like that. The United States doesn't like that. PayPal is matched one for one for the U.S. dollar.
Okay.
And so it's going to succeed. It's not getting the pushback that Libra did because of that very reason. And that's, the United States and the SEC and the Congress, they're not going to say no. It's because it's good for the dollar, and it's good for PayPal because you give them your dollar and they give you a PYUSD. Do that, millions of people, they're going to have millions of dollars, just like Tether. They were going to make the money the same way as Tether does. And then other companies in other countries perhaps will do the same thing to try to get that. They're going to invest your money, and then when you pull it out, they're still going to have millions of dollars that are still invested in bonds and whatever. But it's just it really is a profit margin, or be able to make more money, just like Tether, just like USDC. So that's what the discussion was about.
Okay. Thank you.
I just I just don't trust PayPal, breaches.
Who do
and
you trust? I'm
everything
just curious. Let's go to the other side. Who do you trust? This
else. I
good.
don't
You don't
know.
trust PayPal.
I trust myself.
Well, of course, and that's why you have cryptocurrency, right?
Exactly. That's
Right.
yeah.
But in order to survive in this failed, this world, you're gonna have to. Will you trust FedNow when they give you $5,000
Oh,
or
absolutely
$2,000?
not.
But they're gonna give you money, right?
I'm
Are you
not
gonna
gonna take
are you
it.
gonna deny it? You're not gonna take it?
No.
What happens if you don't have a choice? Like whenever you retire with
Well,
Social Security.
I'll keep $1 in that account then.
Right. And keep the rest of your savings or what you're putting aside in Bitcoin in a wallet where you control the private keys. But the $500 you need to buy groceries and gas that month, maybe you have it in your PayPal account or your
But just know
wallet,
this,
whatever.
10 years from now, you might not have a choice. 10 years from now, you might get paid by your employer, who gets paid by the government,
True.
digital dollars that will be just like we're talking about the CBDC or the FedNow system, where you won't have a choice, and then they can actually monitor what you're spending. And that's what happens. That's what's happening right now in China. And look at what happened in I am not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying these are possibilities.
Let's just buy a big island and create our own government.
Well, that's what we're kind of doing in finance,
Yes.
you
That's
know,
the
and
sad part.
it's self-governance.
So question, there's different crypto categories, right? And store of value, obviously Bitcoin is the big one. What about Litecoin? Isn't that like a store of value too? And do any of you guys have that or know anything much about it?
I always thought it was going to be a means of exchange, and they seem to be working in all the discussions, working towards lower transaction fees and that kind of thing, kind of to be the silver to Bitcoin's gold, but it's like they just never have done anything, and they're kind of my big disappointment. But yeah, any other thoughts, guys? On that? They've been around forever.
It's one observation I like to make on Litecoin is the guy, Charlie, there's a guy named Charlie, I can't remember his last name.
Yeah, it started it.
So back around 2018 or something like that, he comes on Twitter one day and goes, I've sold all my Litecoin. And this is when Litecoin was maybe $350, $400 a coin. And today it's like 83 bucks or 84 bucks. He goes, I've sold all my Litecoin and, I'm out of it. Well, at that point, from my perspective, I sold as soon as I could. Because as far as I'm concerned, like what you were saying, Brad, is about it being a source of commerce and so forth. He destroyed it in that one tweet. He destroyed we were talking a second ago about trust. He destroyed any trust in that coin for the foreseeable future. And it still hasn't recovered to any degree. Even when Bitcoin had its run up to 31 and change a few weeks ago, it only got up to around, 114 or something, 115. So as far as I'm concerned, I used to own Litecoin. When I first started, I owned Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. And then eventually I just gravitated towards basically all of.
So what platform did you hear that his announcement and see that's my problem is the nimbleness. You have to
on
really
Twitter a lot. And so, I follow a lot of people. I have groups of people who I follow in blocks, like you can do there.
So do you do equity stocks and bonds as well? Or do you focus on the Bitcoin?
I don't do any bonds. I've done stocks and stock options since 1982, when the Dow was 865.
Isn't that crazy?
I wish I owned everything I owned then. I'd kept it and not sold it, because my secretary would be here talking to you folks. My secretary would be sitting here talking to you, because I'd be pretty rich. I mean, I one time owned 300 shares of Amazon at $9.
Oh my God.
Okay. And that right now is worth split adjusted, that would be, I don't know, what did they split? They split 10 to 1 last year or something. I mean, at one point it was worth like $750,000. 300 shares that I bought for $1,800. $1,800. And I made 50% on it. I think I sold it at like 15. And I thought I'd kicked butt. I made 50% in like 3 weeks. It was like, that's awesome, man. But anyhow, so to get back to Litecoin, I just think that the guy destroyed it. And I think a lot of people do that. Developers are their own worst enemies a lot of times. And so, I won't trust Litecoin ever again, personally. And I think I told the story before, way back in 98 to 2000. In that time frame, there was a huge run for who was going to be the portal that people got onto the internet, and it was between Yahoo, Lycos, and InfoSeek. Now, InfoSeek was partially owned by Disney, So they had lots of money. Everybody thought it was going to be fine. But and eventually, nobody knows about InfoSeek and Lycos now, or Alta Vista, or other things like that. Why? Everybody knows about Yahoo, because Yahoo came up with the killer app. They came up with live quotes, live stock quotes, not 20-minute delayed, but live stock quotes. And that ended it for everybody else, which was sad for me because I had a lot of money in InfoSeek. But the point being is that Bitcoin is going to be the winner. All these other things are just gambling. They're just, in my estimation, they're gambling. Ethereum has value in the world, but that's my next.
Yeah, it'd be hard for crypto to win and Bitcoin to lose. You know,
Oh yeah, you can't
It's-
have Bitcoin. If Bitcoin loses, everything loses. I mean, everything gets destroyed. All of that. If Bitcoin goes down, well, you know, you're just looking for a turnip to eat at that point. I mean, everybody.
yeah.
Not to be cryptic, or not cryptic, not to be, Michael Downer.
So what's the potential for the generative language model thing to impact Bitcoin?
Whoa, that's a question.
That's a good question. I haven't thought that one yet. Thank you, Susan. Now,
You're
flip my head even more,
That's
I got a
almost
lot. I'm gonna have to move something to the side to think about that one. That's gonna take some power.
Well, what was the question again? Sorry, I was distracted.
What's the potential for the generative language model, the AI, to impact Bitcoin and all of these? Like people say that the financial industry will be one of the very first to be impacted by this. And
by the AI.
yes.
Okay.
And so I consider Bitcoin to be in that category with, I mean, I know people say it's a commodity, and I think of commodities are also in the whole financial, they're traded, and I don't know. I'm just so curious about how it's all going to fit together in one big puzzle.
So I've actually used ChatGPT and AI to actually do a deep dive into Bitcoin. And I think every angle that I've tried to delve down in the 2030 timeframe is all positive for BTC because of the supply demand and as the mass adoption occurs, I don't know as far as AI is concerned, and it's from what I've gathered is I think it's beyond because of the human element and the whole supply and demand and the fact that as supply goes down, the demand goes up. And I think from the AI perspective, I don't know if there's really, I think unless they're going to use AI to mine faster, to be able to calculate and be able to get more, I don't know if there's really, I think AI recognizes, at least from that BTC, because it is limited, I think it's only going to go up in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems like those. Yeah, I have a hard time answering her question directly. I think we'll see probably more AI trading and that kind of stuff in the crypto space than we would in the standard stock and bond space. Although that's not specifically Bitcoin related, it can be any of the other altcoins as well.
You're talking about like smart bots based on AI.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So what is that going to do? Make it faster? Make it, is it going to
better trading,
predict?
smarter
Predictive?
bots?
Gonna predict?
Predictive?
Yeah, predictive, it's done this X times. Now it'll do this. Now I mean, that's what a lot of the bots do.
I think, yes, I think they have that information so that if you propose a question, something like, so what's the best time or way to buy Bitcoin today? Or should I avoid it? And then the response should come. Or sell, is it a good time to sell?
So I've already used AI for that. I actually asked, and and I did the 4.0, 4.5, whichever the one is that has access to the internet. And it actually had told me that the best time right now, based on current trends, is to buy on Saturday. The next one is Sunday, and so people are using AI for those
Interesting.
kinds of trends. And I have actually got that, and I have it on my. I have several discussions on various topics, and Bitcoin is one of them. And that's what it said as far as when to buy and when not to buy. And I'm sure they can narrow it down what time of the day. I haven't gotten that far down the road, but it is the best time right now, according to like I said, ChatGPT is purchased on Saturday, and the next one is Sunday for whatever reason. Not sure
Uh-huh.
why, but that's based on trend analysis.
Like today or tomorrow, or every Saturday and every Sunday.
Every the day
Yeah,
of the week, the day of the week. So yeah, it would be
And
Saturday.
the crazy thing is the world goes round, and while we're sleeping, other people are awake and active.
You are correct.
So
Yeah,
that
exactly.
probably plays into it as well.
Very true.
Yeah.
But it's a tool, right? So AI is just a tool, and you can use
Uh-huh.
it. You can use it for good. You can use it for bad. And we're talking about the financial, and I'm sure the governments are doing the same thing. I'm sure MicroStrategy is using it too. Look at how much they buy, and they don't do it on just, oh, I think I'll buy 1.5 million today, and tomorrow I'll buy 2 million. No, they have analysis. They have analysts that are looking at this kinds of trend analysis, and
The
where's it going to go?
algorithms. Yeah.
Algorithms. And
Yeah.
that's really what AI is going to do. Is going to make the algorithm smarter, right?
Mhm.
And then use the tool.
I'm curious about something, what you guys think about, we talk about Bitcoin as a single unit. But like was it 100 million there, Chris, or was it 100 million? That's what I thought it was 100 million.
It's 100 million, yeah.
So it's 100 million Satoshis. So I'm interested in is, when do you think that the discussion will turn to how much is a Satoshi today?
So yes, actually, you know what? I will find it, and I will put it in here. That there was a YouTube video not too long ago that I had my kids watch, because I actually have not much, but for each one of them they put $2,000 of their own money into Bitcoin, and it was talking about that very issue, that at some point you're going to have a Satoshi being 1 cent, and then whether or not a Satoshi will go up or down based on that. Right now it's like 0.0, it's 8 decimal points to the right of zero, right? So it's like whatever, 100. So anyways, as the price goes up of Bitcoin, the Satoshis go up. And so at some point in the future, especially when my kids are 60, when my kids are 70, it's going to be, the discussion will be the Satoshis versus the price of Bitcoin, because it's going to be so far out there that you and I can't necessarily buy that unless we have it. But
Absolutely.
so the discussion is, and I'll find that right now. It was a really good video about the Satoshis, and that's what you should be focusing on. So when you buy $500 of Bitcoin, yes, you don't get very much Bitcoin, but you're getting a lot of Satoshis.
Right. And and those will be the units that people will be using to buy and to transact. People won't be using Bitcoins to buy and transact per se, unless you're buying something like a house, or a very expensive car, or like somebody mentioned, an island. I had five Bitcoins, so I bought myself a private island with a dock and a house and a helicopter pad. Ah, nice. 5 Bitcoins. Sweet.
Nice.
But for everyday things, for milk and to buy tires and to buy a hose for the lawn, it's going to be, 150 Satoshis, or whatever the dollar amount is associated. You said a penny, or whatever it would be. I mean, at some point in time, that breakdown is going to have to be utilized and talk about where is the Satoshi today, not where necessarily Bitcoin is. Because if Satoshis get to a penny a piece, that's 100 million pennies. I'm not sure, what is that? $10 million of Bitcoin, right? $10 million of Bitcoin, right? It's 100 million pennies, $10 million Bitcoin. Nobody's going to be able to, nobody but the ultra rich are going to be able to buy that. We're not going to buy that, but thank goodness we already have it. That was a snipper of somebody who has a little bit, and all the other people out there don't have any yet.
I liked that. Satoshi is a new word for me.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's the atomic unit of Bitcoin.
I just Googled it. That's so cool. So thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Maybe I'll buy my island in the metaverse.
Well,
There you
Lanaya
go.
might be pretty cheap soon. The Maui Island.
Yeah,
That was bad. But it's really sad for those people that lost everything.
yeah, that's not cool, not cool.
Oh, but that's where I went when the first mention of island. Oh, that's so sad. Mm.
Yeah. All right. Any other fabulous ideas to share and help each other get wealthy this week?
It was nice meeting you guys. This is the first time here, so
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. If you
We'll
go to
come back, please.
FresnoBitcoin.com, we've got links to all of our, previous meetings, recordings, and all that good stuff. So FresnoBitcoin.com.
how often do you meet?
Once a month via Zoom like this, and once a month in person at me and Ed's here in Fresno Clovis. Are you from the area, Francis? I didn't ask you that before.
I'm in the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you ever are crazy enough to come down in Fresno in the heat, join us for pizza. But no, great to have you.
All right.
All
Thanks.
right, guys. We'll see you next week. Oh, not next week, next month. Any other ideas for topics? I'm always looking for topics you guys are interested to cover in the future. Anything, nothing off the top of your head? Okay, feel free to reach out or put comments in the notes or anything like, or on the event page, or shoot me a private message in Meetup as well. So good. All right.
Thank you for doing this, Brad. I really
Nope.
appreciate it. And I
Nope.
try to join every time, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. But I'm thinking about you when I'm not on.
Well, hopefully good thoughts. I'm hoping
Yes,
there.
yes, and I really, really do appreciate that you do this for us.
Sure thing. Sure
I'll
thing.
find that link and I'll share it with you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Nice
guys.
talking to you, everybody.
Y'all
Have a great
Have a
day.
good weekend.
Bye.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.